when we get into the spoilers,
it's a movie. It's a movie
Okay,
made for you.
let's get into spoilers.
Yeah, Nick.
Because we're talking a lot in detail that's like also saying nothing because we can't do the spoilers. Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie, please don't listen. Come back to it. I'm going to write in the description of the time slots so you can just jump to chapter if you haven't seen it or come back to it. We're going to get Brian a baby aspirin. And
He's gonna need it.
so spoiler alert to easily the biggest movie of probably the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes,
Probably.
I would
with
definitely.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, all right, spoiler alert. Okay. Tobey Maguire.
Okay. So
way to bury the lead.
so can I start off by saying one thing that you said like not that long ago, that you compared this movie to Infinity War. And you're not the first person.
mistake.
No, not big mistake, because you're not the first. You're not the first one to do it, respectively.
Yeah.
And
Their marketing team did that.
yeah, but I understand why. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
Sure.
So when if you were to ask me, what would you prefer to watch over and over again? You know, between Infinity War, Endgame, and this one 100 times over.
Really?
And the reason as to why is because the way I see this movie is the production for this one pays more respects. It's harder to produce something that pays respects to something that has generations of work behind it than to produce something that has decades of work already developed and is going to lead up to that.
For sure. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so many things that you will know nothing about if you haven't seen all the Spider-Man movies. For the most part. Like since Homeboy saves the chick at the end, if you didn't see Amazing Spider-Man 2, you'd be like, cool, he saved her.
You don't understand the redemption.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
So the beauty of this movie is that the kind of like to, because if you want my one-liner, this is the best superhero movie ever made.
No, it's
and you're going to disagree on it because you literally just decided to talk about DC for whatever reason.
Because I'm a DC fan.
Exactly.
We're still waiting on the Batman movie.
Yeah.
Because when Batman comes out, it's gonna be better than this.
No. So
ladies.
the reason as to why I say this is the best superhero movie ever made is because everyone has grown up with Spider-Man differently. And if we're going to talk Batman, everyone has grown up with Batman differently. Everyone has consumed the media of those heroes differently. So I've grown up, ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, picking up the comic strips and reading Spider-Man comics.
Right.
And then learning the history. Renee's on that same boat, reading the comics, watching the cartoons and everything. Yeah. My fiance just grew up watching the movies and kind of learning like the stories here and there, but hers was Tobey Maguire. Yep. I've known some people that only watch the Andrew Garfield run. This movie pays respects to generations of Spider-Man fans, be it, however you consume that media. Yeah. And what it did was it not only respected the fan base, but it also respected Sam Raimi, and the production team behind the first 3 Spider-Man. And
in which way do you think? How did they, other than having Tobey Maguire in there?
They brought back Toby and the villains and kind of wrapped up loose ends. They gave them a continuation without making another movie happen.
That's actually...
And they respected the characters. They didn't change Toby's character to be this kind of like, oh, I'm a well-developed Spider-Man. They still gave him problems. They still made him Spider-Man. Yeah. And they made him just... They respected the kind of Spider-Man he is.
Sure.
The other interesting thing about that is that because they pulled a lot of these villains from the moment they were about to die inside those movies. Right. So it's kind of like, I have to grab a character from another movie, throw him into my movie, and he has to make sense.
Yes.
So his ambitions, his characteristics, everything else have to make sense for this movie, or else for the viewer that is coming in that has seen those movies, they're going to go, that's not the same guy.
And then Webb's run of Amazing Spider-Man, that was actually cut short. So how do you kind of bring in a character and an actor who had a run of Spider-Man that ended abruptly?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And how do you respect the production team that did those 2 movies and anticipated a third only for the distributor to say, we're not going to fund a third one?
Right.
You bring him in and you give him his own development and respect how the actor Andrew Garfield portrayed that Spider-Man.
Right.
Because when you look at Toby, Andrew, and Tom, they're not the same people.
No.
They're different in their own ways, and they're good at it for that reason. The way I see it, Toby is not a great Spider-Man. He's a good Spider-Man, but he's the best Peter Parker.
I agree.
Andrew is the best Spider-Man, but an okay Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And then Tom is just the best of both worlds because we get him at a young age. He's developing. He's still got those quirks. He's got those one-liners, and he's still learning, you know? So we get the best of both worlds there. The scene that I'm going to refer to is when they first meet one another on the rooftop. That conversation wasn't for the Spider-Man only. It was for the fans and the production team that worked behind all 5 movies before that.
Right.
Because you're not only getting Tom Spider-Man to kind of boost up and get that confidence and, you know, mold him into the character he's going to be after losing. We're in the spoiler territory after losing Aunt May.
Right.
We're getting that conversation between Toby and Andrew talking to Tom saying, we've done our run. We've been what you're going through. Here's what you need to do, and do not be afraid going on it on your own.
Right.
And if anyone knows Spider-Man, you know, the basics of it, what makes Spider-Man / Peter Parker the kind of character he is that he never gets a break. There's always loss, but he never gives up. And that's what makes him my favorite hero. He could be trashed around, thrown in the dumps, you know, constant death at his own hands. The biggest travesties that could come his way, he's always going to find a way to pick himself up.
Right.
And Tom hasn't had that moment until this movie. And the greatest thing about that is that he didn't have to go through it alone, because Toby had the loss of Uncle Ben on his own. And he had to learn how to figure all that out. We didn't even get to it until maybe the beginning of the 3rd movie when he started to kind of learn it, how to adapt to it. But then the Venom symbiote came in. Andrew didn't experience that until the loss of Gwen. Even though most people are going to say, oh, it's Uncle Ben, that technically wasn't his fault.
Right.
Because there was misunderstanding. And we've all had fights with, you know, parental like figures and stuff like that in that sort of sense. And I could relate a lot to Andrew's. It's
less his fault than the Toby one.
Yeah, I can relate to his journey a lot, you know, losing Uncle Ben.
Right.
But that didn't shape him the way Gwen's death did, because it was at his own hands. And if we would have had a 3rd movie, we would have seen how that could have developed him into, you know, the best version of the Spider-Man that we could have gotten.
Right.
That 3rd movie would have been weird, because it would have been about like his dad and like he has spider blood.
Exactly, but we would have gotten a better molded Spider-Man. I think.
The movie would have been weird.
Yeah, story-wise, yes. But here we have Tom developing and not on his own,
right,
and learning to be the best person he could be with other figures out there. So yeah.
Okay.
What's with the smirks? What's with the smirks?
No, it's just
y'all wanted my actual take.
The thing is, I know what Steven's coming from. It's just like, because when you talk, which is great. That's the thing. We love to hear you talk. But the thing is that you're just like you're putting it all out there, and it's just us taking it in. So I saw Steven just like, all right.
How do I respond?
I'm not hating at all.
Yeah.
I could tell that you're super passionate about it.
Yeah,
and that's
my guy.
Really comes across.
Yeah.
Cool. So here's my response to that full Thanksgiving dinner plate of a response. All right. I agree. I don't disagree with anything you said. And my referring back to why I linked it to Infinity War is because you're getting there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
With both movies, right? It's entertaining if you just went and saw it, but it's 10 times better if you know the moving parts.
Right.
Right. I think that's kind of clear.
Obviously, yeah.
But I would say Spider-Man, it's got good action, and they know how to fucking make a superhero movie now. So like all the CGI is legit and everything looks good. But you don't go walking out of there and going, wow, that was a great superhero movie. The fight scene was sick. Like, that's like way down the list. You're just thinking about how they tied everything in. The writing is so good. And like I said, it's really creative. And what I meant earlier during the non-spoiler section about, like, I didn't know, because, I mean, okay, the whole point was, like, are they going to bring the other Spider-Man back, the original actors, which we were, like, pretty sure, but it was
the biggest thing. Yeah.
That was kind of the big thing. And I didn't know if they were going to bring any more villains in, which they kind of released all that in the trailer. So it was like, okay. But 20 minutes in, you're like, oh, they got everybody locked up already. I'm like, where the fuck does the story go from here?
That's
to
true.
me,
It's
it was
fair. That's
right.
It's fair. Yeah.
I was like, oh, so they're just gonna get out somehow, and now they got to re-catch them. I was like, that's fucking lame. I was kind of like, I don't know, because the whole point, I'm like, all right, obviously these people come back and they fucking fight them, and then they have to figure out how to get them back, and then maybe the other Spider-Man come in. But like I said, 20 minutes in, you're like, I already thought the whole fucking story has been completed. So I was like, now I have no clue where they're gonna go. And the whole part about like how he doesn't want to kill him, and that whole thing I didn't see coming. So that's what I meant about like what you think is the whole plot gets diminished in 20 minutes, and the creativeness of doing it that way, and everything past that, and it's just cool to see a superhero movie for one, and also just a new movie where you're like, I have no idea where it's going.
No, yeah.
And
that doesn't happen.
I think the whole reason of that is just, again, when they were making the trailers and showing you, well, we have to show the audience a little snippet of this movie, of where it's going, what's the point of it. You can't really successfully do that without spoiling it. That's the thing.
Right.
So they had to do what they can and stuff like that. And I think that's, when you saw the trailer, you thought of a single plot. Right. When really the movie, it goes into different directions.
Yes.
Yeah. And it also doesn't help its case when you have multiple series before this one's supposed to come out.
Right.
That expands on the bigger mystery of like how they're going to continue on the next phases.
Sure.
Sorry.
Because you had your big payoff with Infinity War.
Right.
If you watched like the first 3 phases of the MCU, your big payoff is the Infinity War Endgame movies.
Right.
Here, you're getting your build up, and then you get this movie coming out, but you're anticipating all these different things because you had Loki, you had WandaVision, all these different things.
Yeah. So I mean, like when we were talking about it earlier, of like we were sending images back and forth to each other of spoiler stuff. There was an image of all 3 of them together. It was this scene where they're all standing with their masks off, and
on the Statue of Liberty,
on the new Statue of Liberty, and that was an image that we were sending back and forth to each other. So we already kind of assumed the other 2 are going to be here.
And just another thing, it's like you're taking villains from different Spider-Man properties.
It would be a waste if
that's kind of a no-brainer.
It's like,
but you still don't know, until you saw the spoiler. But it's still.
And then the other one was Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Yes,
that I did not see coming at all.
Oh, really? So that was a cool moment for you.
I think we knew because we've been that invested into it, so we anticipated its release or its reveal. I will say that his reveal was short-lived. I understood why. Because it was kind of like a way to confirm that Charlie Cox was going to be in the MCU projects moving forward.
Yeah. Well, because we were talking about it, and I think we thought it out, and I kind of felt like it was the writers' room of, okay, well, Spider-Man gets arrested. Okay, so who gets him out? Like, how does he get out of jail? Okay, so we need something to get him out of jail now. All right, well, he needs a lawyer. What lawyer is in Queens? Well, Hell's Kitchen's down the street.
Yeah,
right. And Charlie Cox does a lot of pro bono work. Okay, Daredevil does pro bono work. Obviously, he would come help Spider-Man.
Right.
And then
Peter
we were
Parker
like,
doesn't have obviously money.
Because Peter Parker doesn't have money. So obviously, the perfect person to put there would be Daredevil to kind of go like, okay, he needs a free lawyer here, or either that or She-Hulk. I mean, those are the only 2 lawyer characters in New York.
He was also Parker's lawyer in the Sins of Our Fathers arc of the '90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah. So there was.
All my listeners already knew that for sure.
Right? Obviously. Yeah. That's like you have to know that.
But there's because Spider-Man does a lot of crossovers with a lot of different people, like Blade. He does a lot of crossovers with with Mephisto. He does a lot of other
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. He hangs out with Johnny Storm.
That's
all the
the
time.
thing. It's like a lot of Marvel characters just love to hang around New York City. No, just New York City in general.
The other way around. It's Spider-Man likes to hang out with them.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he wants to be the Avenger, and everyone's like, "You're just an annoying piece of shit, dude. Like, get out of here."
I'm still looking forward to the Fantastic Four coming in, and then him becoming best friends with Johnny Storm.
Because we get the Fantastic Bagman.
Because we get Fantastic Bagman, which is gonna be great.
So quick little story, right? So I'm driving there with somebody to go see this movie. It's right after work. I think I saw a 3:40 show. I get home right around 3, so it was like she was gonna get some snacks that we snuck in there like daredevils. And anyway, so we're driving there, right? We're like 2 minutes away from the theater. She got one of the things she got was Sour Patch Kids.
Okay.
Okay. I've recently got some dental work done, and so I have 2 temporary crowns in.
Oof.
And they tell you, like, hey, because of the holidays, normally it's 2 weeks. Now it's going to be like 3 weeks till we get your actual, like, molded from the lab crown. So they put this temporary plastic thing over your tooth and, like, cement it in. They're like, don't eat anything crunchy or, like, whatever. One of them's already broken when I ate pizza, which I'm like, that was lame. The first time I went to eat, one broke. So now here we are, like, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
And now you have to go, like, make another appointment and go back in, and it's...
And they give you, like, that just, like, well, what happened this time? You know?
Right.
Like,
and I'm like, dude, I ate...
living my life, dog.
Right. So, dude, first, like, 2 bites of Sour Patch Kids, I'm driving to the theater. And my tooth, for whatever reason, is just, like, I popped like, a big old thing of ibuprofen, but it takes like 30 minutes to kick in.
Right.
So dude, just breathing through, like I could feel the air hitting my tooth. It's just like ultra sensitive. I'm like, fucking please kick in, because I forgot to bring it to work, and I just got off work, so I got home, took aspirin, and now we're driving to the theater. And I go to chew on this thing, and it just, you could feel it. It's like, just breaks, and now I have like a bare, super sensitive tooth. And so like we're walking up, and I'm like holding this like fake cap thing. And I'm like, this movie better be the fucking best movie.
all this torture I had to go through. Yeah.
I'm like literally like blowing out my tooth, like it's on fire. It got better, and I'm glad, because it would have just like not ruined the movie, but it would have been as good if you're just sitting there like in pain. But that was like my intro. So we're walking up, you know what I mean? And then there's just like all these people like, oh my God, Spider-Man, just doing the whole thing, you know what I mean? And I'm just sitting there like,
I didn't know you went to the village.
Brian's crying, you know what I mean?
He's walking out crying.
How'd you like the movie?
Renee's consulting some dog outside. But like, no, that was my intro into it. And then 20 minutes in, like I said, I was like, where the fuck is this movie going?
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be really good.
The best way I could explain it, and I love explaining it this way, I felt like Watts basically just grabbed like a box of 2,500 Lego sets and just dumped it on the floor and said, all right, I got to build something out of this.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially the entire setup is dump everything on the floor, get your instructions, and build it. And it's either going to work or it isn't. And it worked.
I really hope that it was, because I really hope like later on, once they start doing like more press for this, or they start doing behind the scenes stuff, that we end up finding out that Watts did the same thing that Robert Rodriguez did.
Oh, yeah.
Who's that?
Robert Rodriguez, the person that did Machete, he also did Desperado.
Okay.
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
He did the Spy Kids movies.
He also did the Spy Kids movies, yes.
Oh, Spy Kids.
Yeah.
I got you.
He's like, oh, that one I know. Yes.
I'm following now.
Well, anyway, he's a collaborator with like Quentin Tarantino and everything else. Well, he ended up doing...
Such an idiot. Sorry, go ahead, dude.
He ended up doing what was it? Mandalorian.
Okay.
One of the episodes,
he ended up doing one of the episodes. And he was trying to tell them what he wanted for his episode. And they hadn't written it yet, so what he did is he got toy sets.
You're talking about the child episode, right? When he gets taken? Yeah, that's
the one when Boba Fett comes back.
When Boba Fett comes back. So
Love that
basically what he did is he got the episode, and instead of writing a script, he filmed it with his kids playing with the toys, like what exactly he would want the characters to do. And so he was like throwing toys, then he was like using like really bad special effects of like the toys would then explode with like this like really terrible CGI fireball. And he was kind of like, well, when I went in to do this movie, I kind of felt like I was playing with my toy sets again. And I thought, if I could do that with actual toys, then it would be something that people would want to watch. And I feel like that's what this movie was. It was very much John Watts had all of these toys to play with, and then he went, okay, I have to make sure that every single one of these toys has a solid they have a solid conclusion.
Right.
Every single one has to get their kind of like their shine. They have to get their moment, and then also have a good conclusion where you can send them off into the sunset.
And it wouldn't have worked if the cast wasn't on board with it, because one of the greatest things to see is Willem Dafoe take on the role of Green Goblin, Norman Osborn again, and come out in an interview and say, I didn't want to be on it if I was going to be doing a cameo, and 2, if I didn't get to do my own stunt work. because my God, those suplexes he did on Tom Holland. I'm like, how does a man his age basically throw a child like that? It makes no sense, but God, he's a genius.
He did that?
Yeah, that was all him. That was all his stunt work. Besides when he gets like flinged out.
Anything.
No way.
Yeah,
yes.
Anything that he legally could do.
Yeah.
That his body allowed.
Or the studio was like, okay, we'll let you do that. Yeah,
Dude, you really. I mean, you already know it because the original Spider-Man, but like you watch, so he gets to reprise his role. That dude is fucking perfect for that role.
Oh, yeah.
He's the best one. Yeah,
because he just becomes this like little weak old guy.
Yeah,
and then but that voice and the laugh, like dude, you're just like you really like fucking alter ego that he has is fucking badass.
He definitely has like the face of like Jim Carrey where he can just grin and it stretches.
Yeah,
there's certain people in Hollywood that like you could give the role to someone else and they could do an okay job, but there's certain definites. Like Kevin Conroy being the voice of Batman animated for like the solid one, and I don't think there'll probably ever be someone else. That like will even be remotely close to him, or Mark Hamill's like iconic laugh for the Joker. When it comes to Green Goblin,
and now like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Willem Dafoe is like the quintessential Green Goblin.
Right? No, he's in 30 years. If somebody tries to reprise that role, it's like good fucking luck, dude.
Yeah,
because they nailed it.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in 10, 15 years when they were trying to redo it, it's going to be the Jack Nicholson incident. Because a lot of people didn't want to do Joker after Jack, just because everybody was like, well, I can't compete with Jack.
Yeah, because he did a good job.
He did an amazing job. And honestly, Willem Dafoe is an actor that does not get enough credit and does not get enough jobs. Because he is an amazing actor, but he's always kind of done very low budget movies. He's known for like John Wick and Boondock Saints and everything else. But yeah, he's a great actor that, came from the stage and for his age, did an amazing job.
Alfred Molina, too, as Doc Ock.
Yeah, Alfred Molina
he does really well.
Too.
He joked about it. He was like, I only came back for the money, but you can tell that guy was like excited because he's like, I don't have to deal with metallic puppet arms to be filming the scene. It's all CGI. Great.
You could tell the way that the shots worked that they had that freedom. Because I remember I watched that interview and I could tell, I'm like, they had way more freedom, like on the bridge and everything. They were doing all kinds of creative stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, scale of 1 to 10, where do you guys rank it? 10 being it's the...
Why did you limit it to 10?
Jesus.
10.
Scale of 1 to 10, I give it 100.
This guy, dude, we're at an hour and 35, so we got a little bit until 4 hours, but I would consult your doctor if you have a hard on for any longer, dude.
My God, can you jerk this movie off anymore?
No, not enough.
No, I would definitely give it a solid 9.
Yeah.
I'd give it a solid 9.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is the beginning is a little slow.
It's messy.
It's a little messy in the beginning.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time to kind of to warm the engine up.
Yeah.
And to get the story moving and everything else, because you're dealing with whatever happened in 2. You're dealing with the last movie's kind of like problems, because we can't just immediately go, well, we're going to forget that, and then we have to deal with these like people that are coming from different universes. We have to give him a reason to bring
That's
them
what
in.
I thought. I was like, they're really driving home the fact that giving him a reason to like change the whole fucking world with the spell, because people like they had to if that was a 5-minute bit, you'd be like, this is all caused by him complaining about some stupid little thing. You had to really drive it home. His life sucks because of it.
Yeah, and I thought it was really funny because Doctor Strange has a great line in that where he goes, well, I mean, I'm sorry, you went to the college and you tried to you tried to appeal it, and then he goes, you can do that?
Yeah.
He goes, wait, you didn't even didn't even click with you before you try to brainwash the entire world?
Well, you put it like that.
You said something at the end of the movie that really I think summarizes the kind of like thought process that we all went through, is how do you reboot something without necessarily rebooting
Oh,
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's 100% true. So I think if we're going to grab anything from that movie, it's that.
It's a reboot.
How do you start off year 1 again?
Right.
So I give it a 9.
9. You're a 10.
Is that a
In all seriousness, a 9.
Yeah.
It's that first third of the movie that's very sloppy.
Yeah.
But that's what
that
makes
needs
it
to be like that.
Yeah,
That's
there's no
honestly.
way you can make that movie a solid 10. There's just no way. You literally have to dump your Legos on the floor and get your instructions and hope to God what comes out of it is like fireworks.
No,
I agree.
That's what that new Batman movie's gonna be. A solid.
Shut
10.
up.
I would say, I would say probably right around there. 8.9 to a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The repeatability, though, I would say is a little bit less. I don't know. It's a really good movie, but you already the big reveals is part of the how great it is for the first time. So if you already know it, I haven't seen it twice though, so I'll see.
So that's the thing. You do need to see stuff like that, like those type of movies a second time, especially like
you see more
how,
shit.
like Endgame and stuff like that. When those came out, I think I saw Infinity War in theaters like 7 times.
That reminds me.
Because my thing for like repeatability, I would say, does it have like the same repeatability as like Guardians?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to nerd out one more time?
Yeah. What am I gonna say? No.
This is just one like
Don't worry,
1 minute
I will.
line.
No.
So there's one line, and this is why the repeat. Oh, I can't say it. Repeat watching it would work. The second time around, I caught something, and I'm like, okay, this could potentially set up for future movies. So when the cast is about to be, or the spell's about to be cast, Wong is leaving. The guy that's going through the portal, and Doctor Strange basically saying, "Oh, I can basically do this." Wong says one line, and he says, "Just leave me out of this," and then walks away. Right? You can interpret that one of two ways. One, the cast or the spell was casted with everyone forgetting who Peter Parker was.
Except for Wong.
That's that's the second way you can see it. The second way you can see it is exactly that. That when Doctor Strange casted the spell, he wanted everyone but Wong to forget.
Right.
So at the end of the movie, when he cast that spell and everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, Wong was never in the original spell. So in future movies, possibly in Doctor Strange 2 or any other time we're going to see Spider-Man and Wong pops up, Wong is the only character besides anyone else that's out there in space, like the Guardians, Captain Marvel, the other character, Thor. They're all going to know who Peter Parker is, but Wong is going to be the only Earthbound character that's going to know that's that. So that's why it works, because you'll pay attention to those kind of things and be like, oh yeah, MJ's also wearing the necklace from number 2 at the end of the movie.
Yeah, she's wearing the Black Dahlia necklace on her neck.
So there's small little details like that.
Because something still compels her to wear that necklace. So she's still in love.
You guys really noticed the shit.
Yeah. Also, Flashpoint, when Flash reveals his book, that's a play on DC's Flashpoint.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when DC redid their entire lineup, it was called Flash did a Flashpoint, where it was a change in the multiverse that would then change the entire world. And essentially, he went back in time and saved his mom, which then changed everything. And then when he went back to let his mom die, to fix everything, all the universes then combined together. And became one. So it was a nice little play on like, oh yeah, Flashpoint, we're messing with multiverses and doing all these other things.
Dude.
Yeah.
That goes deep.
That's a thing.
No, honestly, if you have the time, watch it, read it. It's really dope. There's a Batman that has guns and like does not care.
Yeah.
And just like kicks people off of roofs and just watches them die.
It's Bruce Wayne's dad.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, everything in that universe, everything swaps. So like instead of landing in Kansas, Superman lands in the middle of Metropolis, so he gets taken by the government. Bruce Wayne is the one that dies in the alley instead of his parents. So then his mom goes crazy and turns into the Joker, and then his dad turns into Batman to like stop her.
Oh wow!
And
so
you say I talk so much.
insane.
Look at this
Well,
guy.
no, that's the thing. He's talking Batman, so that's
Yeah,
That's
right.
oh yeah. 'Cause I'm the only
no. I'm saying the reason why you talk so much is because you were talking Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know.
Now he's talking so much because he's talking Batman.
which is okay.
Yeah.
No, it's like I'm just saying.
Just say yes.
It's all okay.
Yes.
It's all okay. I'm just saying.
But anyway,
when you get someone to talk about something that they like, they spew out word vomit.
But yeah, but honestly, if anything, it's even a really cool movie. Like, go check out the movie. The movie's actually
check it
really
out.
cool. Yeah.
Okay. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to check out the Standing Still podcast, both here on YouTube and wherever else you listen to podcasts.